Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last session of this afternoon, the Impakt Festival 2015. The memory of technology meets the past. We have two guests. It's Olia Lillian, of course, and she will be in an interview with Evan Roth. Please welcome both of them. I will say just a few words about Olia Lillian, excuse me, and Evan, of course, will further conduct the interview. She's one of the first pioneers to work on the internet as an art form, to work with the internet as an art form, and her book, Digital Folklore, is something I can really recommend to you. We're very happy to have her here. Tomorrow she will already be off to Brussels again, so we're glad to have her here, and I hope you will enjoy this session. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for coming. I'm very excited to be acting as moderator today to talk with Olia about her work. She has one of the most succinct artist statements on her website, which I think is a good note to myself and all other artists, so I thought I would show that respect by reading it. Born in Moscow, net artist, one of net.art pioneers, writes on new media, digital folklore, and the vernacular web. Co-founder of Geocities Research Institute, professor at Metz Academy, animated GIF model, mother of three. As a way of further introduction, I thought I would talk very briefly about my relationship with your work and how I came to understand it. I haven't told you this before, but as a much younger graduate student entering into Parsons in New York, and to give this a time period, this was like early 2000s. So this is like when Flash was like everywhere and everything was spinning in 3D and everything was following the mouse trail, right? This was kind of what yeah. This is what I thought I wanted to kind of, this was my introduction to the web, right? And I came to Parsons, and on day one, they handed me the new media reader, and they pulled up some of your work. And they showed, the entire class, they showed My Boyfriend Came Back from the War. And my head still spinning from Flash, right? Saw this web page that didn't have any gradients or drop shadows. The text was like very legible and in fonts that were the proper size. Some of the GIFs weren't even animated. I didn't have to install a Flash plugin, and I was really disappointed. I was like, where am I? What is this school? You know, I thought I was going to make things spin around in 3D. And luckily, I had really good teachers and met with good friends, one of whom, Toby, was a former student of yours, that would introduce me to your work. And since then, I, of course, became a big fan, not just your work, but some of the work you were doing with your partner, Dragon, Midnight, the newspaper series, the text in the vernacular web, your dedication to archiving. All these became big sort of points for me and reference points in my own work. The piece Summer in 2013, like, not to embarrass you, but from my standpoint, is like a masterpiece of net art. And I hope we can talk about that some before we finish. Later, every once in a while, I would have the honor of being exhibited in shows where I can share wall space with you, which is always a huge honor. More recently, I became a collector, which we're going to talk about in a moment, of one of your pieces. I'm also very honored to be hosting one of your works. And today, I'm very honored to be sharing the stage with you. With that as the entry point, I thought we could start by talking about this recent interaction that Olia and I had of making an art trade.
Can we have another
and
picture?
If we could switch to the laptop projector. So this is a piece called Clear GIF, which, like, I want to be an art collector when I grow up, but I'm not now, right? But I'm eyeing the works that I think are extremely important right now and meaningful of the environment and the culture that we're going through now with the internet. And this piece, Clear GIF, was one of my, like, all-time favorite net art piece. And so maybe if you wouldn't mind sort of explaining the background behind what the piece is and how it functions and your thoughts on it, and from there we can move forward with discussing why I love it so much.
Yeah, I already have now our correspondence opened on there. on the screen. Maybe should we have it for later?
No, here, I can read it. So, well, you can see it here. It's me asking if there's any chance we could make this trade. It's you saying, hi, I'm honored, but it's not a piece of art. It's a place where I collect clear gifts. And me saying, well, too bad it's one of my favorites. If it ever turns into an art piece, please let me know. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that could be a follow-up question, too, is after showing the work, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on how you differentiate between collecting and art and research, which I know are three aspects of your work.
I will then go back to this page. So let me please, some words. This all, maybe better here. All this what is framed here, this empty space, these are so-called clear GIFs or one-to-one GIF or space GIF. So they're images, one-pixel images that were used, that are invisible usually. And there are very different reasons why they would appear on the website. And actually you can, if you still have something like status bar on your browser, you can see what is it. So this one is from Geocities. The one after is from the Geocities, another Geocities clear GIF. So this was all for users to make their the layouts of their pages. You know, even before the cascading style sheets, before it was possible to make some clever arrangements on the web pages, you would just make tables and you would take a transparent and visible graphic and you would give it dimensions you need, and then by this you would create a layout. You know, almost everybody did it like this at that time. And at a certain point, I started to collect these invisible graphics. As you can, you know, I can open to you this now in another browser, that you can see that some of them, they don't exist anymore. You see that here, if you can see the down here, this is a, because, you know, when I come here now, it will be unavailable because Geocities, they are down. And here another one that was for statistics used on Geocities, it's also down. But there is another one. Look, I went to it. It's invisible. You can't see it. It's just one pixel. But what this page shows, and it is an important thing, look, it shows that Geocities is actually still up, yeah? Because this folder is up. If I delete this now, yeah, Yahoo will tell you no, there are no Geocities. Yeah, we deleted this. But this one again shows that things are not really deleted; they're just hidden. Yeah? There is no need to delete anything. There is not a lot of space. But because they don't need that anymore, they just say, "Oh, this is not there." The thing is, you can immediately ask, maybe, but why this thing is still visible, this GIF? And I can give you an answer as a person who has seen a lot of pages on the web, not on the pages that are not only on Geocities, that there are a lot of pages in the world that still use, especially this particular GIF in the background. And Geocities in Japan are still up, and they are linking to it. There are a lot of users who use this graphic to create their layouts. So this is my collection, you know, of their invisible graphics, but each of them has a particular story. So you can, in fact, go on and on, describing each of them. There's a lot of from Geocities. The one that maybe is the most sweet one is this, yeah, that we have on Google. There is another Google one. Yeah, and there is one that is used in the one that is used in your email if you use Google email. The one of these images is there, always invisible. And there is one that it's not really clear why is it there. It's just really forgotten. It is not in any layout, and nobody remembers what it is. Yeah, but probably in some early versions of Google website, the first Google developers, they were making the layout the same way as everybody else, yeah, just by trying things to stretch things in a way that they fit to each browser window. This why I all the time jump now from one browser to another. So here you see it as you would see it on any browser on your computer, like it is on the internet at the moment. And here I have a bit different picture of the internet. For me, everything is up now. Yeah, I don't have broken images here, because as you can see, I have here the add-on. I have a proxy. I have Geocities proxy. It means that for me, Geocities still exists. So this archive that is the Geocities that were deleted and then were rescued by archive team and then downloaded by Dragon and myself, they now exist on a supercomputer at Freiburg University. We are allowed to use, and because we restored the pages, we can sort of surf through them. We can see them, and this is, you know, you also can enjoy part of our effort. Like it is on Tumblr, on 1 terabyte of kilobyte H Tumblr, there is every 20 minutes a new screenshot appearing from our collection. Screenshot, of course, it's not everything, right? It's you understand that these pictures, that this globe is spinning. Yeah, that there is a lot of animation. There is very often there is a lot of sound, but we can't really share the pages we have, and also we can't share the video grabs we have because they are quite heavy. Yeah, these are big files. But this is something what is accessible, what doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of space. So there's every 20 minutes, so 72 times a day, there is a new screenshot appearing from our archive. It started in 2013, in February, so soon there will be already 3 years. There is more than 60,000 screenshots posted. So this is, I mean, we really like, we restore things, we analyze, we make a lot of different stuff out of the old Geocities pages, but the main thing for us also to give back, right, that you can see the pages as well. Unfortunately, when you would look at them, you can just see the screenshots. But for me, it's also an interface. I can go to really to this page, as I explained to you. For me, it still exists. I even see the same URL here. So I exist actually as also as an artist and a researcher in 2 dimensions. And most of the time, I am in the Geocities time. And in Geocities time, it is now the beginning of 2000. It's the beginning of the new millennium. Yeah, because these pages were last updated at this moment. We started in 95, and now slowly it's 2000. The greatest thing about Geocities is that it's sort of like a time capsule. You see it's 2000. You just described how web looked in 2000. It didn't look like this, the mainstream web. But Geocities it's forever stayed like 1996. This is a very interesting phenomena. Yeah, I already peeked on some other pages that are appearing later, and it's rewarding. They still look as if it's made in 1996.
And do you feel like there's an important distinction between when you wear the hat as an artist or as an archivist or as a researcher, or is collecting different than art making to you? Or is that important, or is it all part of one process?
What is, I didn't get the question.
I'm curious, when you go through customs, right? And they ask you for your occupation, what do you write down?
Nobody asked, already for a long time, nobody asked me about my occupation.
I'm trying to get to the heart of like whether all this collecting and the research and versus when you're making pieces that are art pieces that we would hang on a wall. I was wondering for you, are those two different creative practices, or is this all part of one greater art project, or all part of one greater research project?
There is I don't know, there are sort of several streams in my work, yeah? One, let's say, one is really concentrated around Geocities archive. Yep. So, and there can be different works made out of it, like what you could maybe see now a bit in the lobby, the 2 slide projectors. Yeah. If you spend some time looking at them, on one side there are pages, there are people, Geocities users, they promise that soon they will have their web page done. And on another slide projector, there are pages where people say, no, sorry, I don't want to have anything to do anymore with Geocities, or I have real life, I don't want to update my web page, or something like school started, I can't do it anymore. And at the same time, there can be on the left one where people promise to make something, they can say, soon school start and I will be able to make a web page. So, you know, there also can be the same reason, but for the same reason can cause different situation. People can stop to update their web pages because of school, and they can start to make their web pages because school started. And I don't know, it's like, first of all, both of this type of pages, that they are, they don't exist at all. Yeah, they were killed at a certain moment, and but then they all the time in timeline they appear next to each other. This promise and goodbye, promise and goodbye. And of course, for me as a person who looks at all this all day long, these are quite dramatic moments. And this is just one example, but there is all the time some drama there. And then as an artist, I try to bring it in some form and also show in the on the walls, as you said.
No, it's one thing to me that comes across. Like I was telling you earlier, like I spent my lunch sitting with those slides and watching them, and of course I've seen some of the screen grabs on the blog. But one thing I like about looking through those is that it's, and one thing I like about the research that you're doing of this particular era of the web is for a lot of people, you kind of sense this excitement, right? Like you see it when you watch these slides, and people are, even when they're coming and going, they're talking about the excitement of what's going to come, or even when they're leaving Geocities, they're talking about the excitement of getting a real URL or moving on. And there was sort of this kind of like bubbling optimism sort of at the time. And there was one quote from your text where you're quoting Jason Scott, he was the person, one of the people involved in pulling down the original Geocities archive. Is that correct?
No, he is so to say the leader of archive team who,
okay.
He organized the action. And
you quoted him, and it's very short. He says, "For some people, their potential audience was greater for them than for anyone in their entire history of their genetic line." Right? Like it was, and that sort of feeling of like empowerment and optimism is why I love looking through those screen captures, because you're seeing people like kind of right in that era.
Yeah, there is a lot of excitement, and there is a lot of and also there is a lot of frustration, and you know there is how to say, even though the Geocities is supposed to be like the lowest from digital cultures, like some people would say real kitsch, and I would also say that in '96, if somebody would send to me the link to Geocities to look at them, I wouldn't look at it. I didn't believe that there can be something interesting there. But now I see that's how many, first of all, different things were there, how many different reasons were there to make a web page, and also that how active actually the Geocities users were if something was wrong. So there was when Yahoo bought Geocities in 1999, they introduced new terms of services that meant that now like all the content belongs to Yahoo. Everything what you put on the web page belongs to Yahoo. And people really started to live, and they started to make pages that would make fun out of Yahoo. Yeah? And this, we have a lot of them now in the archive. So these are like almost political network activism, what you could experience there. This was a, these are very nice moments.
And one thing that's connected to that research that you've sort of changed my thinking on is that idea of the user. And I maybe cite some of my inspiration from the web is like having this admin experience as opposed to the user experience. But you talk a bit about the educated user. I wonder if you could explain some of how that empowerment through being a user connects to the archive.
There is a connection. First of all, I should say I'm the one who insists on the usage of the word user. And I find it very important. It's not maybe the topic of today's conversation, but I think that there are three problems that are in the field of, let's call it new media. Yeah? And this is, the problem is technology, experience, and people. I mean these three words that I used, and very much promoted by the industry, also by Silicon Valley. And these three words, they substitute. Technology substitutes computer, experience substitutes interface, and people is a substitute for the users. And all this, because the main, the paradigm is to make the computers invisible. Yeah, the computers of the future should be invisible. And that's why the word technology is so much promoted, because then what kind of, can be whatever. Yeah, it's not a computer. It's not a system programmed by somebody, but just some technology. The word interface, as you noticed, it's like all the time substituted by the word experience. Yeah, because if there is no computer, then there is no interface. You only should get experiences. Yeah, I think you noticed that everything is an experience now. Yeah, but the main thing is also that, but if to continue to say computer user, it means that there is a computer. But the computer should be invisible. So the idea is not to use the word user. And there is a lot of the things that, what was happening, for example, in between 2009, then we made a book, Digital Folklore, and it was for computer users with love and respect, the subtitle, to computer users with love and respect, because it was about the user culture. I noticed that in 1 or 2 years, already around 2011, it became very difficult to talk about the users, because this word was supposed to be the dirtiest word one can announce. And there is this also, that in Facebook, in the headquarters, they have a poster which says that it's put away the word user, and down it's written people. Yeah, we say people, we don't say users. And then it would be, but in fact, as we know how Facebook database look, they call people targets. Yeah, they call users targets. But they're afraid to say, but they don't want to say user. Publicly they say, they would call them people. So there is an incredible hypocrisy is going on, and the word user is on purpose put down and supposed to be like user is a loser or just user, though it's completely not an etymology of the word user at all. The user means to understand how you use things and to know what are you doing. So, and so I do a lot, of course, to promote user culture. And that's why, actually, the web pages of the 90s, because it was a highlight of users feeling power and being able to do something. And there are, of course, many other things where, the power of the user, and with power of the user, I don't mean something like, it's called an expert user. Yeah, I just mean that person who has power to do
No, I like this, and you differentiate it from how people kind of throw around the word hacker. You have this, I think, one quote where it's like, we know how to open doors without knobs, right? Like, they may not be programmers, but they know how to solve problems with the tools that they have available to them. This notion of educated user.
Yeah, the things that I was just mentioning now about the disappearance of the word user, computer, and interface, they can be found in this article, Turing Complete User, that is here.
So should we talk about users of Hyves? Are there any people who used to have a Hyves account here? Okay. So.
Did you save your accounts when Hyves was closed? Because you were not interested. Yeah, I think I was. It's interesting when I come to the Netherlands. I find myself. It's not for the first time that I find myself in a situation that I spend more times on Hyves than people I talk in front of. Because yeah, it was probably a different audience. Yeah, but users of Hyves, it's now you jumped dramatically.
Oh, sorry. Well, I could give a background of Hyves. Would that be helpful? I have the Wikipedia article for Hyves printed. Would that be helpful? Or we all know what it is?
Yeah, but it's thank you. I will make a connection. Okay. And it's important for me also because there is a thing like Geocities Research Institute, yeah, what we call Geocities Research. I will go here. Institute, but it does not mean that we are only, it is centered around the Geocities archive, all these 400 pages, 400,000 pages what we got. But I'm of course also monitoring, one can say, other networks that were to disappear. And in 2010, I spent several months in Rotterdam when I was making my research about internet cafes. So in German it's called, in Dutch it's called Belhuizen, yeah? Bellhouse. Yeah, Bellhouse, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. And actually through this, I got to know, I will open. Just only the cover of the research, so you know where I was going. The internet cafes that looked like this. Not cyber cafes as imagined in '96, but the internet cafes as it was in Rotterdam in 2010. Just, we will not go to the text, some other, oops. Rotterdam internet cafes. Yeah, some. Because I think if you've never been on Hyves, maybe you also have never been to the internet cafes. But they're incredibly inventive. Yeah, it's very beautiful. One can think that there's all the same, but should be the same. But there's always some special design. And of course this design is not because one wants to be creative, but the idea of the owners of the internet cafes to hide the computers also, that you don't have to access to them, that you can manipulate anything. But they are not so successful, were not so successful with this. Yeah, but then through this going to the internet cafes, because of course I felt quite uncomfortable there. I was not welcomed there, and I was always trying to also to redirect my research of the internet cafes to see what is there on the screen, to find something, what is the immigrant population of Rotterdam having on their screens, maybe because I knew before from other sources that on Arabian websites, they look like Geocities, even if they're made in 2010. Yeah, that there's a lot of animated GIFs, a lot of music and like this, but unfortunately people were still looking at the YouTube, the same. like everywhere else. The only thing that, but in some time I started to notice that many are on Hyves. And this is how I started to, I was going home and going through Hyves. And I got a lot of respect to the way Hyves users were expressing themselves through this very hostile environment of Hyves. So those of you who remember it, you couldn't do actually a lot there, but you could select a user pick and you could change the background of the pages. And not only check the background of the pages, you could position background differently. You could also tile it, you could stretch the image, or you could make a stripe somewhere. And it appeared that it was, in fact, it was enough to make some messages out of it. So then when I removed everything from the pages and only left what was the original combinations of the pick and the background that was there at that time. There is about this, by the way, it's a very popular background that was there at that time, pink, so for girls. Some people loved it so much that they would use it as a user pick, so the other way around. It's a very interesting situation. And yeah, all these Gucci things, I think Hyves users created so many Gucci patterns.
There was a lot of brand awareness in all those pages, right?
Yeah, and sometimes they're really, I think such things are sort of heartbreaking. I don't know if you can feel it here, but it is actually a bit similar to what you could see with the slideshow. Yeah, this hello and goodbye. So it has also been misplaced. There's some, yeah, he was in the background and as a user pick, of course, very popular.
And so what happened to all this data? What happened to all this data?
Yeah, what happened to this, it was, the Hyves was the next loud case after Geocities. Then their network was just deleted. The social network was deleted. And it appeared, it was 4 years later, in 2013, after Geocities, I mean. And you could also see how things changed, that Yahoo in 2009 said to its users, you have half a year to rescue your stuff, to grab your stuff. Hyves only gave 1 month to their users, wow. Also assuming that nobody cares, which was maybe the point. Yeah, and then they just deleted. And again, the interesting thing is that archives team grabbed Hyves, and Geocities is only 1 terabyte of data, but it's a lot. It's a lot of work for a lot of people now to make sense out of it. Hyves is 25 terabytes. And this, what we have there, it is maybe, it's almost, I don't know if anybody will ever even start to make sense out of it. At least I would also say that we need people who can have personal experience with this, who can do something out of it, who remember stuff, who can relate to it. And because just these terabytes, it's not a lot to...
How is it that that data transfers from the company to the archive team?
These are people who are with their computers, who join the effort to save their robots.
They're scraping.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
But if it's a lot of people with powerful computers, it works. But I always all the time try to be a bit subversive and tactical. I know I don't have, I'm not an archive team. But I know what I'm looking for, and in these weeks that I had before Hyves was deleted, in between announcement and deletion, I was saving money. I was going from profile to profile and was grabbing what I could grab. Because for me it was very symptomatic content of Hyves, very authentic. I'm sure these users, they went to Facebook or elsewhere, but I'm sure they left these things. They would not take them to Facebook. So yeah. I put them here now, and I see myself. I feel a bit like a bank. You see why I made it, what I hope to do with this money once, but don't try to steal it. They're absolutely safe here. I used another trick. I didn't use the transparent GIF to put over it that you can't. It's a JavaScript, yeah, that you can't.
So why do you think in the case, because this happened more recently with Blingee, correct? Where Blingee was, they made the announcement that it was going to close down, and then the users kind of had this revolt almost, where they were trying to brainstorm ways to keep it online, and to some degree that worked, no?
That's yeah. Now, yes, some of you were on Hyves. Other people who are on Blingee. Do you have experience with Blingee? No, of course, yeah. Nobody would confess, I know. I am absolutely sure. Yeah, this is.
Can we see some Blingee? Can we see some Blingee for those who've never witnessed it?
I will show. Can I open here then the interview? So this is where I, in general, describe all my findings from Geocities, from Hyves, from elsewhere. And yeah, let me then show just this image. This is a typical Blingee, but maybe it's not. It's a new type of Blingee because Blingee is known for its for the stamps that were. They're given by the system. Yeah, all this stupid. Let me go here. The standard stamps.
Were you nervous when they were talking about closing, that this would be another huge research endeavor? I mean, if this were going to go dark?
Yeah, the interesting thing that is that I asked archive team to start to grab Blingee already in February. It was clear that it would going to happen. But they started to grab only in August, when Blingee announced that they will be closing. The interesting thing about Blingee is that they didn't close for the first time. We don't know exactly what happened, but the official announcement says, "We heard you. It belongs to you, so we love you." People, now you can still have it. You can continue to be creative. I made this. Yeah, the interview. I talked to this person. It's a very influential Russian user of the Blingee maker. It's also what is influential. She makes stamps that others can use for their images. So she produces the content. And in her idea, I was surprised how aware she was of the real reasons. In her idea, they wanted to close it because they understood that people who are on Blingee they are not interested for NSA. So it does not make sense to how it's called, to spy on us, she said. And because there is a Blingee tool such that you have to install in your browser if you want to make it professionally. If you want to have more options, you have to install special Blingee add-on in your browser to modify your browser. And for users, at least after Snowden, it was clear that it's not just for more functions you can have in the program, but it's a spying tool. Yeah, we don't know if it's true or not, but what we know that after Blingee stopped after Blingee stepped back and said that they will not be closing, they also removed this toolbar.
Huh.
You can use now Blingee. They said, okay, it's yours, sort of use it and no toolbar. This is a... And Blingee, people say that Blingee started to work faster without this toolbar, and everything became so better. That's a very
I like the
funny
idea
story.
that Blingee could be like a form of encryption. Like it's hard for the computers to read the GIFs, right? So we could start embedding messages within them.
Yeah, this is. There are so many interesting things happening, and for me, it's also the example Blingee. I'm not only attracted to the. I'm not only attracted to the appearance of this, but what users can do there and how they are showing their what I call Turing completeness, or how they are becoming general, so to say, general purpose users. Yeah, how they're looking, finding their way around the program even in such environments. For example, look at this example. Of course, you will laugh now. This is something made for the wedding, right, or for some love, some Valentine's Day. Now we can see what is here on the stamps that are used to produce it. You always can see the stamps. There are much more men than one can see here. There's only one man, right? But usually down you can see from what it is made, from what the picture is made. Yeah? So this picture is made of more men, yeah, than you can see there. And the question is why? Is it some, I don't know what, some fantasy that it's not only one man?
They're layered underneath? These
Yeah.
other men?
Yeah, look, there are more layers there. And you can see all them. And usually it's because you can go here, and it will be used here, and you can know where this is used. So why is it there? What kind of, I even thought that maybe it's some voodoo. I don't know. But then I got explained that it is much, if you found something what you like, you just put it in the picture, you make it invisible, but you know where to find it next time. Because the rest of the interface is not very smart. It's not very comfortable to use to keep the things you found. So people start to save things in the background, and then it creates such a crazy thing. And then we can now come back to your favorite work, Evan. Yeah.
Please.
The one you bought. No, what is this collection?
Because there's a Blingee GIF within the clear GIFs, correct?
Mm-hmm.
There was a moment where I knew that Blingee was going down before that they said that the users kind of pooled together to save it. And one of these GIFs is the Blingee one. I forget which one it is. And because I'm like infatuated with this piece, like I had this moment where I didn't know who I was rooting for, because like I view this piece kind of as this animation that plays out on this long time scale, right? Where eventually these GIFs are all going to go dark. And so I was actually building a web page I was going to send it to that was auto-refreshing this page, so that you could watch it like TV and just watch the moment, like when the server died on Blingee, and you could just see it go from a clear GIF to a broken GIF. But I have to say that probably it staying online and accessible is more exciting than that one moment that I would have witnessed like alone in front of my computer.
Yeah, and all this, I'm always fascinated about this invisible stuff, what you can see. Of course, Blingee has this invisible GIF. They have it to, they use it as a transparent layer that people can't save something with the right mouse click. Yeah, because you think you saved something, but you saved the empty GIF. It's an old 90s trick, but they're good with this. And then I found recently, and people try to find ways around it, but also there are some maybe even more dramatic situations or dramatic invisible images like this one. This is transparent, but this is 400 to 400 transparency. It's not on Blingee, it's on the Russian server, like when you just keep stuff. And this one is common to use because if you want to use Blingee for making, not for, without the photo, because the workflow is first you upload your photo and then you start to put stamps over it. Yeah? But people want just to have glitter, so they don't have photo. And then they know that there is this transparent GIF somewhere. Not everybody has Photoshop to make there. Yeah? So there are all this transparent stuff somewhere invisible, but it says a lot about what's going on. Right, Evan? Am I?
Exactly. So we have not so much time left, and you know that I want to talk about art. Can we talk about some art?
Your favorite one, the one you also
can
host?
we talk about this one? So we have this is, do you want to present Summer, or shall I? You want me to do it? So this is another piece where I have a very small moment where if you watch the toolbar at the top, like it'll ping my server for one of the frames of this animated GIF. You present it. I'm not here to present your work.
Yeah, this is the work I made in 2013. It's called Summer. Had some other, maybe more technical titles, but I stopped on Summer. And there are ideas, because I'm an animated GIF model, there are some other work where I pose and I try to be a perfect animated GIF. Maybe it's important to open it here. For those who don't know that I'm an... this is my job, actually, to be used on the web pages of people who still make web pages. Yeah? And I show myself as a perfect loop and as a perfect transparency, so I will fit everywhere. But this one was, I wanted to come back to my old net.art ideas or dreams, and at that time was in the 90s. For the net artists, it was very important to create work that can be only seen if computers are connected, to distinguish ourselves from the interactive installation, from CD-ROM art. So it's not just, idea was that it is not about interaction, not about fancy images, but the main thing is happening in between the servers, because it's distributed content. So many of my early works, they were about the location bar. And then in 2013, then it became already clear for me that we have now really the last months when we can see location bar. I tried to make something that could only exist if computers are online and can be only enjoyed if all these 25 servers are up at this moment. Quite often it can happen, even now, that something is down and then you can't, I freeze and you can't see the work. And there is some delay on the way. Yeah, sometimes it's much slower. Yeah, but now we have there is a cable connection here.
But maybe this is a good thread to go down, because I think it connects to the theme of the conference in the sense that the upkeep of this piece, the upkeep also of Clear GIF, is kind of built into the work, no? Like with Clear GIF, it's about some of these links dying, and I know with Summer, because I follow on Twitter, and I remember especially in the beginning, you were like pulling your hair out when people's servers would go down, right? Like I actually feel really more nervous about my own website going down, not because of anything missing content from me, but because it's hosting one of these frames, right? And so if the animation gets to that frame, you know exactly who's dropped the ball on like maintaining this piece. And I think it brings up, I think that piece, this as well, so this is the contract for the Clear GIF piece. It's a similar issue, but it brings up this interesting idea of like how this moves forward. Like how do we archive these? Like how does that piece function in 10 or 20 years from now?
I don't know how it will function in 150 years from now. I all the time make small steps that are aiming, like let's say 2 years from now, or one. I try to influence things that are in the nearest future, also with my artistic work. Try to keep things, so to say, in rotation, that they still continue that they have their life in today's web, or that they are, let's say, confronted with the new, with the interfaces of today. Sorry, I will if I, yeah, but we have here the new piece. Maybe it's also illustrating. We can see it here because it is. It's good high resolution screen, and you can see here it's called 440. 640 880, which was the resolution for the very, very first websites, as you know. And now on my screen you can see, so it would be something like this. Yeah, this 400. Not something like this, but exactly like this. And I also used this for this work, the backgrounds that were very popular at that time, and now put them on the video background with the same theme, because I think you noticed that at this moment there is such a, like, in the end of everything, in the end of the web, it just becomes the video. It's very rich, it's very dynamic, it's huge. So but I all the time try to use this new stuff, new interfaces, new tricks, new maybe cheap features that you have in the browser, but to keep the old stuff coming out of the, coming out, I mean like exhibition midnight. Like in this work we made together with Dragan, it's almost now, it's 9 years old at this moment. And at that time, it became clear that there is, it was then Google Maps started. The navigation slide bar looked like this at that time. Now it's different, but it was made for that moment. And it was a big change for the interaction, for dealing with the screen, for how you build websites, making apps. There is zoom in and zoom out. A lot of things have stopped to make sense. And then, but we made it, we took out all the functionality. You can't zoom in and zoom out. But whatever you do with this, you reveal the navigation elements that early web users were making for their web pages, because they completely didn't trust this back button. They were not interested in the logic of the home page as it is in the browser and stuff like this. So it was, at that time, you know, we also didn't have archive to our disposal. It was all about first finding these elements and then to put them together. And sort of it's a monument, yeah, also building monuments for this stuff is important. And then if it's monumentalized, then there is a chance that it would be kept.
Yeah. And this is part of the reason why me like entering this trade and feeling some, kind of like responsibility for keeping this work online is, I think it's what art collecting hopefully could be. It's like you end up feeling part of the piece. You end up feeling like some responsibility for it. Mm-hmm. But then why it's more complicated, I think, with your work and more interesting is because some of that decay is like built into the work in a really interesting way. Like with Summer, it's like this short story, The Last Leaf, right? Or it's like, I just picture you kind of swinging until, you know, these days when the infrastructure starts to crumble and the web turns into something else, and slowly it's 11 GIFs and then 4 GIFs, or individual frames and 1 GIF. And on the one hand, I want to keep the pages online that I'm responsible for. And on the other hand, I wonder if them breaking down is part of the natural life cycle of the piece.
Like it is with these broken images.
Yeah.
I think it's very important to keep them, that Yahoo is ashamed that it ruined such a beautiful...
Can I ask you one visual question? Can I step to the internet? I prepared one embarrassing slide after Evgeny's talk last night. I'll just go here.
Can you take this?
Because I was thinking that, like, one theme that seemed to be prevalent in his talk last night and in the panel and in your work and I think in my work is that it doesn't seem like the people here, I can talk into this one, it doesn't seem like we disagree so much on what's happening to the web. It doesn't seem like we even disagree that much on like how to fix it. but it seems like this question of like optimism versus pessimism keeps coming up. And so after his talk, I went back and I was looking at summer and thinking about what to talk about, and I made a really bad Photoshop image. Oh, but your keyboard. How do I get to my website? It's this one.
But you are in my...
And then where's / here? I can type faster than this on my home system. And so anyway, the image is really not the point, but the question I was going to ask you is like, okay, here we go.
You
so
made
it's
it.
Like, when I look at summer, right, I wonder, like, is this a smirk or a smile? Like, as you're thinking forward into the future, like...
You're making fun of me.
No, I'm dead serious.
You came close to
I came close to making fun of you. But I'm serious, though. I'm very curious about whether... when you were making summer, or in your intended vision of people that are viewing the piece, are you swinging happily, or are you kind of like waiting for the system to crumble?
I was swinging happily. Now you see when
Until you saw this image, no?
but then I saw this image. I recall this torture, this months of torture to cutting out this chain. Because for me it's very important that GIFs are transparent, that they can be used on different backgrounds. Yeah, I think I will be as live as long in the memory of people.
Okay, that makes the piece even more joyful for me.
Yeah, but of course you maybe prepare the perfect ending. But if I had 1 more minute, I can show something more serious to that is more seriously, like, not an artistic thing, but it's about my art project, yeah, my early artwork, my first one, which is my boyfriend came back from the war, and it's since 20 years it's online. Yeah, you can see it, you can enjoy it, you can hate it, whatever. The interesting thing is that. And it works perfectly. But it's getting terribly old. For me, when I look at it, I prefer to look at a screenshot, at an old screenshot of it. That's more authentic for me than what I see in the contemporary browser. It just does not belong, because I think this browser is ugly. And then I made it, it was beautiful. But the browsers were beautiful, and that's why, yeah, but there is now, this emulation as service type of archiving things and bringing things back, it makes a lot of things actually exciting again. So there is no fake what I'm showing to you now. It's from Freiburg University, the project that makes emulators. And as you can see, you can even use it online. So it's accessible. Now I don't have any proxy now. Everybody can use it now. So in your browser, you can start the old system. Yeah. For example, here, Windows 98. It's now a bit pre-programmed because now it will start Netscape. Look what a beauty it is, yeah? And now it will be a bit slower because it's emulator. But now I can see the real thing, the real resolution, the real browser. Also, when usually now, when it is a bit too fast still. But when I show this work now in the real space at the exhibition, I have a possibility to make to slow down the connection. So inside the computer, the work is offline, but the computer pretends or simulates that there is a client-server communication, and that this is very slow connection. So I can have it. So now, I would click, and there would be at least some moments to wait, not like this, because artificially you can't stop yourself from clicking fast. Yeah, it should be modem that would stop you. Yeah, and there is a lot of going on in preserving the memories of the past in different ways. So not only artistic projects and monumentalizing, but also giving the access to the memories of the past. That's great.
I think that's a great place to end, and we've ended back at the beginning. So maybe we can thank you so much for sharing your work. This was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a screening that we're going to do. Did we have time for questions?
A few questions.
Yeah. Sure. Is there questions?
Hi. Yeah, I really liked your interaction and sharing both of your experiences of Olia's work. Thank you. I was wondering, Olia, and also maybe Evan, if you were aware of this recent study about how social media platforms tend to kind of rise and fall. There was a recent Princeton study that kind of tried to predicts how these platforms also expire, and apparently they have a lot of similarities with how diseases spread. So epidemic, rising and contagiousness of disease. They have connected all these diseases to social media platforms, and according to that study, they say Facebook, for example, will probably lose 80% of its users in the next year. So that type of study...
Will lose or what?
Lose, yeah. They predict by hand of that study that if the prediction would conclude, 80% of the users of Facebook would be gone by the end of 2016. So I was wondering, this doesn't really relate to your work specifically, but I was wondering if you ever think about how social media platforms right now function, and if you feel that they are about to expire just like the older platforms.
I'm not at all monitoring what's happening on Facebook, and I also know that I personally will not be able to, I know that I will not be able to rescue anything there, but I also will not be interested to make sense out of it or to look. It's just, but I'm talking about me personally, yeah. Maybe there is I think that, but there should be, of course, people who are interested in their content there should now make actions to save it, to download the archives and all this. The same with Twitter. Yeah, so to rescue your own stuff.
Other questions? Over here?
Yes, I had actually two questions, so I'll try to keep it short. You were talking about people, like users, active on those platforms as if they were sort of anonymous. One thing, there's diversity in it, but did you, from the research you do you have any idea who those people were, and if there are like different communities of people active on those platforms?
Can you say it? What?
Sorry. Do you uncover something about the community structure below, like the users on platforms like Geocities?
Exactly. How it was different? How they differentiate? Or what's?
Yes.
Yeah, there is
communities.
There is incredible diversity from community to community. And it would be just a completely different lecture. It's several lectures. It would make totally sense not to talk about Geocities as whole, but for example, Homeland neighborhood or West Hollywood neighborhood, yeah, or something like even very particular. Elements that would be how are they called? Suburbs. Yeah, there was neighborhoods, and then there were suburbs in this neighborhood. There was a lot of different stuff going on, and also aesthetically there is a diversity. And what was it?
Okay, so then I had a short second question, because you and like this research team have been involved in this early internet culture. So how was it for you to see that, like in the later years, in between 2011 and 2014, something that was like a really an upliving on Tumblr and on like in music and in apps like Cyber FM and things of this 90s internet culture. If you see video clips of Young Lean and the Sad Boys, and you see like those GIFs and this aesthetics of that you saw in the early days of the internet becoming popular again, and people trying to emulate it. Also, many Tumblr pages sort of use these simulated old Windows pages as part of a visual subculture. Like, how is that for you as a researcher in this?
I was, of course, there was this moment in a bit, so there was Web 2.0, and then in around 2007, 2008, old web was again hot. Yeah. But what was hot mostly, the animated GIFs, under construction signs, some marquee, so that the text would be going around. And unfortunately, all this is what I still feel quite sad, because the main thing that nobody it didn't provoke anybody to make their own web pages again. Then we can see aesthetics, but the culture of making a web page gone completely. And this is quite, I think it is a dramatic thing, because I think making your own web page is the most conscious activity, medium, so to say, media-specific activity one can make being online.
Hello, I was wondering, from like the artworks you make with like the screenshots of websites of other people, do you for the people who made those websites, do you ask permission to use those, or do you give them credits? Because I think
you mean where? I hear they are.
Yeah, or for example, the web pages or the Blingees, like, do you like mention who made them, or do you ask permission to like?
I don't ask permission, but it's you always can see their authors.
Okay, okay.
But I would not know for what I should ask the permission.
Yeah, because I guess because if they don't exist anymore, it should be difficult to get in contact with them, and yeah, do they know that they are?
Oh, some really know, some are happy, some are, not some, but there were 2 cases that we were asked if we have something and asked not to show it.
Okay, okay, thank you.
This is it.
I think we could go on for another several minutes asking Olia questions, but we have a film to screen still in this program, Trapped. That's Corey Archangel excavating the experiments on the Amiga computer by Andy Warhol. I suggest if you have more questions for Olia, you can ask them in the bar. I would like to have a warm round of applause for Evan Roth and Olia Lillian.